And you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, everything looks good.
All right. Okay, so my topic, as our moderators mentioned, is wellness through visual poetry. It's a different type of a webinar compared to the 13 webinars Global Spiritual Forum presented over the last 1.5 years. I'm normally a moderator of these webinars, so today is the first time I'm presenting webinar fully for this forum. So first, a couple of comments about my personal journey. End of 2019, everything was perfect in my life. I actually took a 1-month trip to UK and Sri Lanka, where I was born, just around the 31st of December 2019. And I have a very good friend. I have a lot of friends in England, but one particular friend is very special to me, Professor Richard Kotas. I first met him in 1982 when I was a graduate student at the University of Surrey. We immediately became friends. And then later, next year, I joined the first ever master's degree program in hotel management outside USA, presented by the same university. And he was the program coordinator. And we became friends. And he also supervised my thesis. And later, Professor Kotas and I became friends. And later, I joined him when he was the director of another hotel school for a university called Schiller International University in London. He was the director of the hotel school. I joined as his deputy or the assistant director. This was in 1990. After a little while, he retired and I succeeded him. I was the acting director for some time. He continued to be my mentor and my friend and partner in scholarly work. We publish a well sought after textbook in UK. It's a standard textbook in universities for a long time. Now it's out of print. And we also started presenting seminars in Jamaica and Sri Lanka and England and together. So we worked together for a long time. And then in 92, when I started a new hotel school in Sri Lanka, it's called International Hotel School of Sri Lanka. Now they are going to celebrate 30th anniversary this year. I was the managing director. And Professor Kotas invested money. He became a business partner of mine. So he has been, he was like my second father for all these years. But I could not meet him for a couple of years. So he was particularly happy that I was coming to London. I broke journey there. I spent a day with him and his wife. And it was very refreshing for me. And, you know, he was a true friend. Then I did something that I always want to do. I want to take a flight. I want to usher the new year in midair. So between my favorite two cities, London and Colombo, I took a night flight on 31st December and I ushered the new year. That was in my bucket list. So everything was happy and, you know, good. And I called my wife to wish her for New Year. Then I spent a month, a very nice month, 1 month with my father in Colombo, Sri Lanka. He has been a poet and a writer and an artist and also an administrator for his whole life. And so I had very good 1 month with him. He gave me a couple of more lessons in poetry and art. Art I have been painting for over 60 years. But poetry is something new for me. I started poetry only in 2018, mainly because of my father. He published an award-winning book of poetry. And also my sister, younger sister, is a professor of English, and she's a poet as well. So they inspired me, and I started poetry in 2018. And he always, whenever I met him, he gave me lessons, basic lessons. So that's what he did. In January of 2020, we had a very productive 1 month. So everything was fine. I returned to Canada, where I live, on 30th of January, 2020. So I started reading and listening to this thing about COVID-19, but I didn't take it that seriously. I thought it's one of those things. It will, like the swine flu and Ebola, and it will come and go. It will be fine. That was my attitude. And I came back on 30th January to celebrate my wife's 53rd birthday. So everything was fine. My wife is now at that time working as the front office manager for a Hilton. She was very happy. Her degree is in hotel management as well. She was very happy with the work, and I was reliving my hotel life through her stories. And she was a funny lady. She used to tell me stories every night what happened at the hotel. So we were very happy. We had planned 2020 was going to be the year of happiness. We planned a couple of trips. We planned a trip to Sri Lanka in August. We were planning to do that. We were planning a trip with our two kids to Jamaica, where my wife was born. We also planned a cruise for that year. In addition to my work, it's going to be a very bright year. I already had a book contract in London, in England, couple of conferences, and couple of organization plans, including one from Turkey and one from Iran. Were interested if things improve in that part of the world for me to do consulting in those two countries. So everything was working well. Month of February, I had a couple of meetings, setting the rest of the year to have a very active life in business, consulting, and writing, and family, everything. So that was the beginning of year 2000. Early March, everything changed. My wife has been always very fit, very, very strong and fit. She never had any illness in her life. They never been into hospital except for the two child births. So she was very, good. But suddenly things changed. One day, she turned yellow. We took her to the emergency room, and they diagnosed that night that she has stage 2 pancreas cancer. So that was a big shock, but we decided to fight. We decided, my wife is going to fight this with all our might. That was our thing. Just after that, a lot of other things happened. The pandemic, as you know, I don't have to tell, it shocked the whole world. Pandemic still does. Month of May, I heard the bad news. Professor Kotas passed away. My longtime mentor and friend. So that made me very sad, but I was happy that I spent that day in London on my way to Colombo, which was nice. Sometimes in life, you miss opportunities because you become so busy. We get into a rat race. But that particular, when he passed away, I was very deeply saddened. But I spoke with his wife, and then we both agreed that he was very happy to see me. So spend that one day in London on my way to Colombo. Month of July, my dad passed away, and he had a very good life. He was 98. He was nearly 99. But people expect your parents to live forever, right? So, so when he passed, the biggest challenge was that I could not go. I couldn't attend his funeral because of the COVID. So my last discussion with him was over Zoom, over Facebook. We had a chat the day before he passed, and so my goodbyes were on Zoom, and then he passed away, and that shocked me as well a lot. My consulting business now gradually went to zero. A lot of time at my hand now. Of course, most of the time I spent learning the best job I ever done. That is being a caregiver. I didn't know to do those things, but I had to quickly learn it, caregiving to my wife. So it was an emotionally draining period, a lot of pressure. We also, our two kids, our daughter just joined the college, and my son was in grade 12. He was trying to get a scholarship with his results to university. So it was a sort of an important time in their life. At the same time, their mother is not well, and then the pandemic, and we are stuck in the house, and you know how it is, and it's a very depressing type of period for most of the people, particularly to my family, because what we were going through. So to how to cope, I quickly realized that as a caregiver, I had to be mentally, physically, emotionally strong, to do my sort of role. So I was thinking, and in the month of May, I thought this idea of this spiritual forum was a very sort of a loose one, Facebook group. I never expected it to grow like this. So started for selfish reasons, I must confess. I thought, if I start a sort of forum like that with friends, I have family who are very spiritual type people, and I can learn from each other, and we can share, learn, and provide some help to each other free. Especially in a global pandemic, I think it's important for people to connect in different ways more than earlier. That's what I felt. So I started the Global Spiritual Forum. Of course, I surround myself, like anything I've done in my life, I surround myself with very good people, like, for example, Dr. WPULA. And it grew so much. And as I don't know how to explain Global Spiritual Forum, Dr. WPULA already did. But the important thing is something that we started in May. I found, because of my connections to the hospitality industry, culinary arts, and tourism, most of the members who came, they are from that industry, and they tend to talk about things which are not essentially spiritual, but more about the food and culture and tourism. So I said, guys, let's start a separate one, because let's keep the spiritual forum purely for debating philosophies and spirituality, and it's open for anyone from any religion. I myself is a free thinker. So we started a sister forum called Global Hospitality Forum. And today, those two forums have, as of now this evening, 6,840 members. I mean, it's quite remarkable that within 1.5 years that we have achieved that. They come from 112 countries. More importantly, we have a group of about 90 volunteers. They have different roles as administrators, moderators, group experts, and everybody works free and then share. On a normal day, we have about the two forums, about 50 posts. Some of them are very simple ones, some are very complex, thought-provoking debates. So that is okay. We have people at different levels. So I found 3 things helped me in this journey. One was the spirituality. I'm a student of spirituality, but learning from others, and that was very helpful for me. Then I looked at 2 of my hobbies, which was painting. I've done it my whole life. Poetry was a new thing. I've written few poems. I always had it back of my mind that I will eventually do a book of poetry, but I've written about maybe 15 or 20 poems at that time, at the beginning of 2020. So I then leaned on those 2. Whenever my wife was resting, I did those 2. I also play bridge, and I'm a director of bridge, but I do all that online now. But so mainly 3 things helped me: spirituality, learning about spirituality, improving my poetry, and doing visual art. Those 3 things. So this presentation is about that. I want to just give the background first before I did so. And my painting has always been fun type of painting. And for example, this particular one, do you see the big painting there? You see it, right? Now
Yes,
this was, yeah, you see it. Now this was actually, I was commissioned. I was not paid for it. I was commissioned by my wife when she turned 54. This was done exactly 10 years ago. She's from the Caribbean, and she was a diver in the Caribbean Sea, and she was a sportswoman. She said, I like a painting. Don't give me anything for my 44th birthday, but give me a painting. Do a painting. I said, sure, no problem, honey. So I got this big canvas. It's 4 feet by 4 feet. And this particular painting is called Beneath the Caribbean Sea. I'm also fascinated with the pirates and what is beneath the beautiful beaches and all that. So I did this abstract, but I didn't have too much of what I call artistic freedom. My wife gave me the color scheme she wants. She wants texture. So I did exactly the way she wanted. And this is the birthday card. Actually, myself and the 2 kids, we signed behind this, wishing her a very happy 44th birthday. So apart from exhibitions and things, I used to do a lot of fun with art. And right next to my office here in the basement is my my little studio, where I paint and I do sculpture and do other things. So that I just want to show. So I've been painting, and some of the things I want to now come fast forward to a painting I did last Saturday. That is just 3 days ago, 3 or 4 days ago. Just to show you the process. Sometimes I go open air, just inspired by that moment, the sunlight, or the rainbow, or the water, the lake, or whatever. I get inspired from what I see, and then I create something. Sometimes I plan the process well in advance. For example, my painting, the last painting, was a planned one. So this is my planning stage. I can't hire expensive models, so I told my daughter to take a picture of me in this truck. This is a famous winery where we live in the wine country of, one of the 2 main wine countries in this country, near Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake. We have about 146 wineries in the neighborhood. So it's a wine country. It's like Bordeaux in France, not so historic, but we make very good wine. So this particular winery, I like it, 13th Street Winery. They're into art. They have a sculpture garden, 2 big art galleries. So we were going to paint there, a group of artists. I took this picture and I decided to put that in the picture. Sometimes we do landscapes which has no people. To me, when you add a person or 2 or more, landscapes come live. That's what I believe in. So this is the plan. I sort of took 1 picture from their brochure and what my daughter took. And then normally I spend 4 hours to finish a painting outdoor. That day, they served us wine. So I think I took a little longer time. I took 5 hours. So this is me working. It's very peaceful. To me, it's a form of meditation. And then you are, close to the nature and you are creating something. A nice thing about painting in a public area is people come and talk with you. They are having a glass of wine and they ask what you're doing. They take permission to take a picture, and so it's nice, talking with people. And the final product of this was this after 5 hours. So it's the truck. The single tree was important to me. Everybody else seems to be having fun in this picture, except the lonely person seated there. Then I'll show you one more painting I did a week ago. That is in our neighborhood lake, Lake Ontario. I took a picture of my daughter seated there, and then this was done with a group of artists, and this was my painting. We live by a port, so this is a port on a neighborhood port. So this I want to give a general idea of the painting and what I sort of do. But what my coping mechanism, it worked well. It was a sad period, and you can't ever replace what I've lost. But it helps you to sort of focus your mind on different things on different days during this journey of nearly 2 years. So the outcome is quite good. I'm happy. I'm 90% there, completing my new book. I'm getting into creative writing now from academic writing. I don't work in a university anymore, so I'm taking a shift towards creative writing. The first book will be called Emotions. So that's the outcome of my work during this difficult time. It's called Emotions. It's a book of visual poetry. Basically, the book will have, I have written a lot of poems in the recent past, a lot about my wife, a lot about pandemic, etc. But I picked some I dropped. So this book will have 54 poems, selected poems, and they are broken into these categories. So 1 and 2, I already had those before the pandemic. So one from my past experiences, one about nostalgic moods. For example, I went to a city in Sri Lanka called Jaffna. Sri Lankans will know that. There's the capital of the North Province, torn with by a bloody war for 26 years. I could not go there I went there as a kid, and then for about nearly 50 years, I didn't go there. And eventually my brother-in-law took me there 2 years ago, and I was inspired, by what I saw. And as a child, my interpretation was different, and now this is what I see. So things like that, I write these nostalgic things. I going back to places that I lived before, like Jamaica or the rainforest, and so those were there already. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are chapters of the book. Are all new. They were written between last year and this year. So each chapter has about basically 7 or 8 poems and 7 or 8 paintings. So that's why it's called visual poetry. I'm going to focus, and there's a section on spirituality. There's a section about love, and then the end. I'm going to now focus on more pleasant ones. The section 4 that I call escape to landscape. So painting outdoor or plein air, I found it useful for me to escape from, not escape and escape, but be away, change the mood a little bit, so come back more energetic to look after my wife. So escape to landscape I'm going to show all the poems in that section. And I remember, I'm a beginner in poetry, so I'm not a very good poet, but let me share. So this painting I didn't do recently. This was done when I was 6 years old. This is the first painting of mine that I can find. It is called The First Art Lesson. So let me read the poem. It's over 2 slides. A guiding hand taught me to walk, talk and read, then to paint. A little kid in a tropical zoo, a first-time wanderer, amazing big animals. Paint what you see, pen what you feel. Advice then, still useful decades later. So I'm talking about my dad's first lesson. Use less paint, be gentle with the brush, critical as ever during my last meeting. Cherish memories, lessons in life and art, from my first visit to the zoo to my first final lesson from my father. So some of this become a bit emotional, I apologize. So this is a sort of story about, it goes for 60 years. Okay, the next one. Next one is particularly, I'm explaining the process. When I belong to a group of artists, plein air artists or outdoor artists called Niagara Plein Air Artist Group. So this particular painting, I was there for 4 hours. And sometimes I get inspired and then I come home and write a poem to go with it. So this is what happened. So this is where I was. So I wrote about, this poem is simply called Art. About 4 hours of painting under the shade of a large tree while listening to birds singing. A relaxing form of meditation. No other distractions, only one thought. Should I recreate what is seen within the 4 boundaries of the canvas? Communicate silently with the paints, using the brushes, palette knives, and at times index finger. Remove some from the scenery as please. If feels like, add some from imagination. Do so without any permission from anyone. Feel totally free of rules, conditions, guidelines, distractions. If some inspiration need during the process, look up at the blue sky and the clouds moving carefree, and those mischievous dancing leaves of green trees. A deep feeling, I am also a part of that beautiful nature. So some of these poems don't rhyme, and there are no rules. And I also learned in poetry, there are not many rules. You can make grammatical mistakes, that's okay. And some of the people in my group are very loyal to what they see. When they go out, they reproduce exactly what they see. They're like photographs, they're beautiful. I don't have that talent, but I don't also consider my job is to recreate what I see. I can take a photograph. My thing is interpretation of how I feel is far more important than recreating exactly what I see. So that's how I think about it. You know, our group is different. And at the moment, there's a group exhibition of these artists, and I'll show one picture. And sometimes after painting, we have a glass of wine and have a little chat, chit chat, critique each other. So those are nice things. This group is mainly retired ladies from Niagara region, but there is a fun group and very well organized. They actually go about 3 times a week, and I try to find at least 1 day a week whenever I'm free. Okay, so let me cover a couple of other poems. One day last year, my wife was undergoing chemo. She had altogether 11 bouts of chemo before surgery. It's a 9-hour surgery, and another 12 bouts of chemo after surgery. So it was like a long thing every 2 weeks, and she gets weak, and then we go for a walk. The lake is behind our house, so we go lakeside walk to the port. We live by a village. But suddenly things change, and I'm amazed with like what happened to me, that everything was happy. Things I'm basically a very optimistic person, and then suddenly things change. So I like my poetry show that things suddenly change. You plan things, and then you are doing in the middle of something, and then you are not in charge. You're not in control. Someone else, the nature decides. So this next poem is about that. A happy day, but how a subtle change change our atmosphere. So this is our neighborhood village port. So my poem is about Interlude. It talks about right. Okay, so let me read it, if you don't mind. I'll try to read most of this, except the last poem I will not read. I will probably get too emotional. I'll let you read the last one. So this one, lazy village road ending at the port, green lighthouse welcoming a boat, good old pier now partly broken, lakeside carousel only for a token. Looks like a picture, wonderful nature. I set up my easel to gently capture. A palette with oils, stroke of a brush. Behold her beauty without a rush. Sun rays through the clouds disappearing, dark clouds and rain now appearing. Thunder! Painting is not over, I allude. Rush home abruptly, ending my interlude. So I had to complete the painting later because it was raining and we had to rush home. And then our group, sometimes we go to odd places. There was I find beauty in rustic, broken things also. We were taken one day, the meeting place was what do you call antique flea market. And the house is falling apart where this antique flea market is. It was by the lake. Ontario Lake is huge, it's like ocean. And I was inspired by this old broken building. Everybody who went in my group, they painted the trees and the water and other beautiful things. I decided to paint this, what they consider ugly looking old building. So I wrote a poem, a very short poem, Mystic Old House. Sheltered by a single tree, as if to protect from unkind wind, across the Lake Ontario, weathered over a century, majestic then, rustic now, beauty of discolored red bricks, in spite of obvious neglect, standing tall, defiant. This place, I have to tell the story. There is a place called Mill Pond. I am always inspired when I go there. It is about 15 minutes drive from where I live. It's a place where the best photographer in Niagara region built his business over the years. He's also a writer and a political commentator, and he ran for mayor of this little area. And his wife plays bridge with me, and she's an artist and a great chef. Two of them were actually in hospitality as well. But they, over a lifetime, they built this beautiful rustic place. It's a private pond. The pond is fairly large. So one day we didn't have a place to go to paint, and I told the organizer, I have a friend here. Let's go to Mill Pond. So I gave one call. They said, bring all your friends, and not our house, our yard is yours. You paint anything you want. And they are, it's very, very rustic boats, little bridges. And so this is what I wrote. Autumn breeze greeting me gently. Chirping of birds increasing gradually, entering through moving branches and leaves. Playful sunbeams reflect on the green pond. A living work environment built brick by brick, created over a lifetime by a loving couple. Not limited to photos taken, books written, a place where shared ideas in harmony dwell. Naturally unique, sense of space, endless. For plein air artists, a paradise, limitless. Small bridges, piers, boats, large willow trees. To capture more on canvas, I shall return. So a few more to finish my chapter. This is the final painting I did in the Mill Pond. It's not a very good painting, but I tried to capture the different fall colors reflecting in the pond. Then, of course, as you know, Canada has 4 seasons, so we were getting closer to winter, and actually my wife was adamant. She was in hospital again. She was adamant to come home for Christmas. She even, I think, lied to the doctor that she's feeling fine. She wanted to be home for Christmas. She came home for a few days, and then we had to admit her again to the hospital just after the Christmas. So this was written during that particular dark Christmas of my life. This is partly from imagination, partly looking at the village, the close by village. It's called Starry Winter Night. Freezing bitter cold in the middle of winter, sprinkled with pure white snow on a purple starry night. Lights on, doors closed, nice and cozy. Fires burning, smoke on chimneys, but not a soul in sight to listen to the howling sounds. Wind blowing through the trees, barren leafless branches. No more leaves to blow, nothing else to chase. Thousands of stars illuminating the sky, yet no guiding star to direct me. Something mysterious to discover, perhaps a spiritual enlightenment. So these are times that I was also confused with some spiritual thoughts and problems and things like this. So I try to capture that sort of, and also it was a brutal winter as well. The next one is called Tsunamic Moods. This has a story. This painting is 4 feet by 4 feet. I was commissioned this time by my son. He said, Dad, for my 18th birthday, can you give me a special present? I want you to do a painting like what you did for mommy. I won't hang it in my room. He gave me the colors. He said, I want tsunami. I want the waves and things like this. And that was very touching for me because one of the first international paintings that I was inspired with when I was about 4 or 5 years old is the painting by Hokusai, the Japanese artist. I think he did it in 1829, a painting which is famous as, it's called Waves. Actually, I have a painting in my office. I like it so much. This is, let me see if I can show you. No, I don't think I can show you. Yeah, it is. Yeah, sorry. It is actually hung in my office. It's called, wait, I'll remove it. I'll show you. This is the famous painting. This is one of the listed numbers. I hope it looks okay. It is, anyway, it is called Waves by Hokusai. So this one, my dad went to Japan for some training and then came with this, one of the listed copies of this great painting. And it was hung in our living room. I, in fact, wrote an article, like a fun article about it, the tsunami, how I got inspired by the tsunami painting when I was 4 or 5 years old. And every morning I lived in Colombo, Bamblebitty Flats. From my bedroom, I can see the Indian Ocean, the waves, and how the same beautiful waves affected Sri Lanka in 2004, Boxing Day tsunami, killing about 39,000 people. So and then when I read about it, Hokusai, living in Japan, he was terrified of the waves, and he was petrified that the whole islands of Japan are surrounded with volcanic surroundings, and all what you need is the sea plate to change, and the tsunami comes, and so his fear is shown in that painting. So I wanted to not copy, but inspired by Hokusai's wave, I did this particular one. I call it Tsunamic Moods. I try to relate that to my life also. A cool morning and a calm ocean, greeted by gentle breeze as we sail. Everyone happy in a relaxing holiday mood. Life seems peaceful when all is plain sailing. Suddenly, the dark sky invades. The sunshine flees, change of course, birds disappearing abruptly. Seagulls screams drowned by some fearsome noise. A provoked nature, ocean explodes in thunderous fury. Swells coming small at first, then large and violent. We are helpless in the midst of giant monstrous waves. Dreams plunged into nightmares, crushing my hopes. Can we survive a ruthless life tsunami? Okay. Next one is actually, this happened. We were walking. I used to take walks with my daughter to our neighborhood areas, and then suddenly it rains and we come running. So this was inspired from one of those things, and also some other images I had in my mind. So this is called Dark. The starry darkness is looming. The roughness of moving water I feel. The sound of howling high winds I hear. Even looking bats flying in fog, I faintly see. Heavy rain when we fled the park. Clouds that move, still looking dark. Sudden noise like a wolf bark. More fearful thoughts quickly spark. Too many nightmares, increasing fright. Not by choice, another sleepless night. Look up, sky still far from bright. Any chance for a glimmer of light? So I'm just going to share only one more poem. After that, if there are any questions, I'm very happy to answer. We may If there are no questions, we can end earlier, not a problem. The last poem, so those are the poems in that particular chapter about escaping to landscape. I've also included just one other poem, which comes from the end of the end chapter. I'm not going to read it. I don't think I'll do a good job reading it. I would like you to read it. I'm going to put the slide. All right?